The morning sun filtered through the windows of Sweet Root Bakery, casting golden light across the worn wooden countertops where Emma Chen shaped dough with practiced hands. At 34, she moved with the confidence of someone who had built something from nothing. A thriving business, a stable home, and most importantly, a good life for her 9-year-old twins, Sophie and Noah. "Mom, Noah took the last muffin!" Sophie burst through the kitchen door, her dark curls bouncing with indignation. Emma smiled, wiping flour from her hands. "There's always more where that came from, sweetheart." She reached for a fresh batch cooling on the rack. "Take these up to Mrs. Hernandez's table, please." As Sophie marched away with newfound purpose, Emma checked her watch. The Riverside Fall Festival would begin in 2 hours, and she still needed to load her booth supplies. The festival had grown from a small-town gathering to a regional attraction, bringing visitors from across the state to their sleepy Oregon town. This year would be Sweet Root's 5th year participating, and Emma had prepared special maple walnut pastries that had become something of a local legend. Noah appeared in the doorway, chocolate evidence smeared across his cheek. "Mom, can I ride my bike to the festival grounds to help set up?" "Not alone, buddy. Wait for Aunt May. She's coming to help us transport everything." Emma ruffled his hair, noting for the 1,000th time how his eyes, deep brown with flecks of amber, mirrored his father's, Jonathan Reed, a name she had trained herself not to dwell on. 10 years ago, he had left Riverside with architectural dreams that couldn't be contained by their small town. Their goodbye had been bittersweet but final, or so she'd thought, until she discovered her pregnancy 3 weeks later. By then, Jonathan was unreachable, having embarked on a project in rural Japan with spotty communication. After months of failed attempts to reach him, Emma made her choice. She would raise these children on her own. The bakery bell chimed, pulling Emma from her thoughts. "The banner looks amazing!" May called out, admiring the Sweet Root sign Emma had painted for the festival. "You ready to wow the crowds again?" Hours later, Emma stood proudly behind her booth as festival goers lined up for her famous pastries. Sophie and Noah darted between the crowds, their volunteer badges giving them important duties collecting voting ballots for the pumpkin carving contest. "Emma Chen?" The voice came from behind her, familiar yet distant, like a song half-remembered. She turned, pastry tongs suspended in midair, and felt the world slow around her. Jonathan Reed stood before her, more weathered than she remembered, his dark hair now threaded with silver at the temples. He wore a simple blue button-down that made his amber-flecked eyes more pronounced. Jonathan. His name felt foreign on her lips after so many years of careful avoidance. "You're here." "I moved back last week." He shifted his weight, eyes taking in the bakery sign, her apron, the success she'd built. "My mother's health isn't good, and I'm opening a branch office here. I didn't know you still lived in Riverside." Emma nodded, words failing her. 1,000 questions bubbled beneath the surface. Did he know? Had anyone told him? But before she could speak, Noah came barreling toward the booth. "Mom, I got 15 votes for Mr. Peterson's jack-o'-lantern. It's winning!" He skidded to a stop, noticing the stranger. "Hi, do you want to try my mom's maple pastries? They're the best thing ever." Jonathan's eyes widened, taking in Noah's features. The resemblance was unmistakable. The same chin, the same expressive eyebrows that Jonathan's mother had always said were a Reed family trait. Confusion crossed his face, followed by dawning realization. "This is your son?" he asked quietly. "Yes," Emma replied, her heart pounding. "Noah, this is an old friend of mine, Mr. Reed." Sophie appeared then, sidling up next to her brother. "Mom, can we get ice cream when our shift is done?" Jonathan looked between the twins, recognition washing over his features as the pieces fell into place. His gaze returned to Emma, filled with questions she wasn't ready to answer, at least not here, not now, surrounded by half the town. "We should talk," he said softly. Emma nodded, feeling the carefully constructed world she'd built begin to shift beneath her feet. "Yes," she agreed. "I suppose we should." Truths unveiled. The cafe on Willow Street remained exactly as Jonathan remembered. Exposed brick walls, mismatched vintage chairs, and the scent of freshly ground coffee beans. Emma sat across from him, fingers wrapped around a mug of chai tea, her gaze steady despite the tension that hung between them. "Noah and Sophie," Jonathan said, breaking the silence. "They're mine, aren't they?" Emma nodded, setting down her mug with deliberate care. "Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" His voice remained controlled, but Emma could see the hurt in his eyes. "I tried," she replied, recounting the emails, the calls, and eventually the letter sent to his last known address in Japan. "After 6 months of nothing, I had to move forward. I was 25, pregnant with twins, and terrified." Jonathan ran a hand through his hair. "I was in rural Hokkaido for that project. Communications were limited, and then I moved to Singapore." His expression darkened with regret. "I should have tried harder to stay connected." "It doesn't matter now," Emma said. "What matters is that they're happy, healthy, and loved." "They're incredible kids," Jonathan admitted. "I saw that even in our brief interaction." Emma allowed herself a proud smile. "They are. Sophie's our artist. She designs all the bakery's seasonal menus. Noah's our builder, always creating something. He reminds me of you." An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. "Tell me about your life," Jonathan finally said. "How did you manage everything?" Emma traced the rim of her mug. "After you left, I used the money I'd saved for culinary school to buy that tiny storefront on Pine Street instead. It was barely bigger than a closet, but it was mine." Her voice strengthened as she continued. "When I found out about the twins, my sister May moved in to help. The bakery became successful enough to move to the current location when the kids were 4. You built all that yourself while raising twins?" Admiration colored his voice. "I did what I had to do," Emma replied without self-pity. "The twins gave me a reason to push through the hardest days." Jonathan leaned forward. "Emma, I want to know them." "I know I have no right to ask." "You're right, you don't," she interrupted, her composure finally cracking. "Do you have any idea how many times Sophie has asked about her father? How Noah searches for your features in his own face? I've protected them from feeling abandoned their entire lives." "I never abandoned them," Jonathan countered. "I didn't know they existed. And whose fault is that?" Emma stood suddenly, drawing glances from nearby tables. She lowered her voice. "You left without looking back, Jonathan. You chose your dreams over everything we had." "That's not fair," he said quietly. "We were young. We both agreed I should go." Emma collected herself, sitting back down. "You're right. I'm sorry," she sighed. "The truth is, I've spent years preparing for this possibility. I always knew you might return someday, and they deserve to know their father." Relief washed over Jonathan's face. "Thank you. But we do this my way," Emma continued firmly. "They need time. I need time. 9 years can't be made up overnight." Jonathan nodded solemnly. "I understand. I'm not going anywhere this time, Emma. I've taken a permanent position here, the Reed Architectural Group's new West Coast headquarters." Emma's eyebrows rose. "You did well for yourself." "I achieved everything I set out to do professionally," he acknowledged. "But I've missed connections, family." He hesitated. "Do they know anything about me?" "They know their father was someone I loved deeply, who moved away to follow his dreams," Emma replied softly. "I never wanted them to feel unwanted, even in your absence." Jonathan's eyes glistened. "Thank you for that kindness. I didn't deserve it." "It wasn't for you," Emma clarified. "It was for them." As they prepared to leave, Jonathan paused. "There's something else you should know. I never stopped thinking about you, Emma. Not once in all these years." Emma gathered her purse, carefully avoiding his gaze. "That doesn't change anything." "Maybe not," Jonathan conceded. "But it's the truth." She finally looked up, meeting his eyes. "The truth is, we have 2 children who need us to be adults about this. Nothing more, nothing less." As they stepped outside, autumn leaves danced around them in the afternoon breeze. Emma checked her watch. "I need to pick up the twins from my sister's house." "When can I see them again?" Jonathan asked. Emma considered this. "Sunday. We have a picnic in River Park every week. You could join us." She hesitated before adding, "It would be a start." As Jonathan watched her walk away, he realized that the woman he had left behind existed only in memory. This Emma, steady, strong, and fiercely protective, was someone entirely new, someone he would have to earn the right to know again. Hesitant Steps River Park bustled with weekend activity as Jonathan arrived, clutching a gift bag in each hand. He spotted Emma and the twins near the old oak tree, their picnic blanket spread beneath its sprawling branches. His heart hammered against his ribs as he approached. "Mr. Reed is joining us today," Emma was explaining to the twins as he reached them. Their curious faces turned toward him with matching expressions of intrigue. "Hello again," Jonathan said, suddenly unsure how to act around his own children. "Mom says you're an architect," Noah piped up. "That means you build things, right?" Jonathan nodded, relieved for the opening. "I design buildings. Would you like to see some pictures?" Noah nodded enthusiastically while Sophie remained watchful, her gaze analytical beyond her years. "I brought something for each of you," Jonathan said, offering the gift bags. Emma gave a slight nod of permission. Sophie received a professional sketchbook with artist-grade colored pencils, while Noah unwrapped a complex architectural building set. Their eyes widened with genuine appreciation. "Mom said you lived in Japan," Sophie ventured. "Did you see real ninjas?" The ice broken, Jonathan found himself fielding questions about his travels, carefully censoring the more adult aspects of his global adventures. Emma remained quiet, observing their interaction with guarded eyes. "Can you help me build something?" Noah asked, already opening his new set. For the next hour, Jonathan and Noah constructed an elaborate bridge, while Sophie sketched them, her pencil moving with surprising skill. Emma unpacked lunch, passing sandwiches and fruit to each of them. "You have Mom's smile," Sophie announced suddenly, looking up from her drawing. Jonathan nearly choked on his sandwich. "I do?" Sophie nodded decisively. "But your eyes are like ours." "Sophie," Emma cautioned. "It's okay," Jonathan assured her, then turned to Sophie. "You're very observant. That's an important quality for an artist." "Are you staying in town forever now?" Noah asked, fitting another piece onto their bridge. The question hung in the air, laden with implications. Jonathan met Emma's gaze over the children's heads. "Yes," he answered firmly. "I'm here to stay." Later, as the twins played with other children on the playground, Emma and Jonathan sat in awkward silence. "They seem to be taking this well," Jonathan ventured. Emma sighed. "They're curious now. The hard part comes later when they start asking why you weren't here before." "What will you tell them?" "The truth," Emma replied. "An age-appropriate version anyway, that sometimes adults make choices before they have all the information." Jonathan watched the twins on the swings. "I missed everything. First words, first steps." "You did," Emma acknowledged without malice. "But you're here now. Can I ask you something?" When Emma nodded, he continued. "Are you seeing anyone?" Emma looked surprised by the question. "No, between the bakery and the twins, there hasn't been much time for dating." "And you?" "I imagine successful architects don't stay single long," she added, attempting lightness. Jonathan shook his head. "There were relationships, but nothing permanent. No one ever measured up to what we had." Emma's expression hardened slightly. "Jonathan, whatever we had ended a decade ago—" "I know," he said quickly. "I'm not presuming anything. I just want you to know I never took what we had for granted, even if my actions suggested otherwise." The tension between them was interrupted by Noah running over, excitedly describing a new friend he'd made. Jonathan smiled, recognizing his own childhood enthusiasm in his son's animated gestures. As the afternoon waned, the twins grew tired. Noah fell asleep in the car on the drive back to Emma's house, while Sophie continued her quiet observation of Jonathan from the back seat. At Emma's front porch, Jonathan hesitated. "Thank you for today," Emma nodded. "They'd like to show you their room sometime, maybe next weekend?" "I'd love that," Jonathan replied, hope blossoming in his chest. As he turned to leave, Sophie suddenly darted forward, wrapping her arms around his waist in a quick, unexpected hug before racing back to her mother's side. The simple gesture left Jonathan speechless, his throat tight with emotion. Emma guided the sleepy twins inside, pausing at the door. "Good night, Jonathan." "Good night, Emma," he responded softly, knowing that something profound had shifted between them, however slight. The bridge back to each other would be built slowly, one careful step at a time. Part 4. Building Trust. 3 months passed in a rhythm of cautious integration. Jonathan became a fixture at weekend activities, helping with Noah's science project, attending Sophie's art exhibition at the elementary school, even assisting at Emma's bakery stall during the winter craft fair. Today marked another milestone, the twins' first overnight stay at his newly renovated riverside home. Emma stood in his living room, inspecting the space with a critical eye. "You've thought of everything," she admitted, noting the twin bedrooms, decorated to match their interests. Constellations for Noah's ceiling, a mural wall for Sophie's artistic expressions. "I had help," Jonathan confessed. "Your sister May has been surprisingly forthcoming with advice." Emma raised an eyebrow. "May never mentioned that." "I asked her not to. I wanted to prove myself first." He hesitated. "Have I? Even a little?" Before Emma could answer, Noah burst through the front door, Sophie following more sedately behind him. "Dad, can we try the canoe today like you promised?" Noah had started using the term dad almost immediately, while Sophie still called him Jonathan, testing the waters of this new relationship. Emma's breath caught. She never tired of watching. Their interactions, seeing parts of herself and Jonathan blended so perfectly in their children. "The river's too cold this time of year," she cautioned. "Actually," Jonathan said, "I thought we could drive to the indoor pool at the community center. They have practice canoes for the winter months." Emma felt a flicker of annoyance at being undermined, followed by the realization that she was no longer parenting alone. The adjustment remained difficult, even with Jonathan proving himself consistently reliable. "Text me pictures," she said finally, "and call if they need anything." After the children bounded away to explore the house further, Jonathan turned to her. "You could join us, you know." "I can't. The bakery's catering the winter's anniversary party tonight." She hesitated. "Besides, they need time with you without me hovering." Jonathan stepped closer. "And what about what you need, Emma?" The question caught her off guard. "What I need?" "Yes. For 10 years, everything has been about the twins, your business. What about Emma?" She backed away slightly. "I'm fine." "Are you?" His gaze was intent. "Because sometimes when you think no one's looking, there's this sadness in your eyes." "Don't," Emma warned. "We're co-parents, Jonathan. That's all." His expression softened. "Is it? Because lately I've been wondering if we could be more." Before Emma could respond, her phone rang, the bakery calling with a crisis about the anniversary cake. She answered gratefully, using the interruption to restore her composure. "I have to go," she said after hanging up. "Kitchen emergency." Jonathan nodded, disappointment evident. "I'll have them home by noon tomorrow." Hours later, Emma stood in her silent house, the absence of the twins' energy making the space feel hollow. Her phone chimed with a message from Jonathan, a photo of Noah and Sophie grinning from a canoe, life vests secured firmly around them. Despite her resolve, Emma smiled. Her phone rang again, Jonathan calling. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Perfect," he assured her. "They're asleep now. Sophie actually called me Dad when I tucked her in." Emma sank onto her sofa. That's wonderful." "Emma," Jonathan said after a pause, "do you ever think about us? What might have been?" "It doesn't matter what might have been," she deflected. "It matters to me," he persisted. I made the biggest mistake of my life walking away from you." Emma closed her eyes, fighting the emotions his words stirred. "Jonathan, we can't go backwards." "I'm not asking for that," he clarified. "I'm asking if we could go forward. Together." Before she could answer, the doorbell rang. Emma opened her front door to find Jonathan standing there, phone still pressed to his ear, a determined expression on his face. "The twins are with May," he explained, lowering his phone. "I asked her to come over after they fell asleep." "You shouldn't have. 10 years ago, I chose my career over the possibility of us," he interrupted. "I won't make that mistake again." He stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "I'm not asking you to forget the past. I'm asking for a chance to create a different future." Emma felt the walls she'd built around her heart begin to crumble. "It's not that simple." "It can be," he whispered, his hand gently cupping her cheek. "If we want it to be." The familiar touch broke something inside her. Emma leaned forward, her lips meeting his in a kiss that spoke of years of longing, of possibilities never forgotten. His arms encircled her waist, drawing her closer as the kiss deepened, awakening feelings she'd buried long ago. When they finally parted, Emma rested her forehead against his. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not just for me, but for them. If this doesn't work." "It will," Jonathan promised. "Because this time, I understand what matters. This time I choose you. All of you." As moonlight filtered through the windows, casting silver patterns across the floor, Emma allowed herself to believe that some bridges, once rebuilt, could be stronger than they were before. The future. We Choose Spring arrived in Riverside with a riot of cherry blossoms and new beginnings. Emma stood in the bakery kitchen, putting final touches on a 3-tiered cake adorned with delicate sugar flowers. The bell above the door chimed as Jonathan entered, architectural plans tucked under his arm. "The contractors approved the final design," he announced, setting the plans on the counter. "Construction begins next month." Emma admired the blueprints for Sweetroot's expansion, a project they had developed together over the winter months. The new space would connect her bakery to the vacant storefront next door, creating a cafe with riverside views. "It's perfect," she murmured, studying the details. "I can't believe this is happening." Jonathan slipped an arm around her waist, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Believe it. You've earned this success." Their relationship had evolved gradually over the past 6 months, rebuilding trust through shared parenting and rediscovered connection. The twins had adjusted to their new family dynamic with surprising resilience, though not without occasional challenges. "Sophie asked me again this morning," Emma said, returning to her cake decorations. Jonathan nodded, understanding immediately. "About why we're not living together?" "She says it's inefficient to have 2 houses when we're together every day anyway." Emma mimicked their daughter's practical tone. "She gets that analytical mind from you." "And what did you tell her?" Emma piped a perfect rosette onto the cake, that adults need time to be sure about big decisions. Jonathan watched her skilled hands work for a moment before asking, "And are you?" "Sure, I mean." Emma's movement stilled. She set down the piping bag and turned to face him fully. "I think I am." His eyes brightened.
Really?
"The twins need stability," she continued, "and this back and forth is becoming complicated for everyone. Plus," she added softly, "I miss you when you're not there." Jonathan pulled her into his arms. "I've been waiting to hear you say that." That evening, they gathered the twins in Emma's living room for a family meeting. Noah sprawled on the floor with his latest construction project while Sophie perched attentively on the couch. "We have something important to discuss with you," Emma began. "Are we getting a dog?" Noah interrupted hopefully. Jonathan laughed. "Not yet, but that's negotiable for the future." "The future is actually what we want to talk about," Emma continued. "How would you feel if we all lived together? If Dad moved in here with us?" Sophie's expression turned serious. "Would you get married?" Jonathan and Emma exchanged surprised glances. "Eventually," Jonathan answered carefully. If that's something Mom wants too. All eyes turned to Emma. She felt a moment of panic, followed by unexpected clarity. 10 years ago, she had imagined a different life, one that had seemed lost forever when Jonathan left. Now, somehow, they had found their way back to a version of that dream, strengthened by the journey between. "I think I would like that," she admitted, her voice steady despite the emotion welling in her chest. Noah abandoned his building blocks to join them on the couch. "So we'll be a real family? Like Jaden's parents?" "We've always been a real family," Emma corrected gently. "We're just changing the arrangement." "When?" Sophie asked, practical as always. "We thought we'd start moving Dad's things next weekend," Emma explained. "And you two can help decide where everything goes." The discussion evolved into excited planning, which furniture to keep, where Jonathan's architectural models would fit, whether the garage could be converted into a studio space for Sophie's art. As the twins debated the merits of repainting the house, Jonathan took Emma's hand. "Happy?" he asked quietly. Emma squeezed his fingers. "Getting there." Later that night, after the twins had gone to bed, Emma and Jonathan stood on the back porch, watching moonlight play across the garden they had planted together in early spring. "I have something for you," Jonathan said, reaching into his pocket. He produced a small velvet box. Emma's breath caught. "Jonathan, it's not a ring," he clarified quickly. "Not yet. That's for when you're completely ready." Curious, Emma opened the box to find an antique silver key on a delicate chain. "It's from the original Riverside Bridge," Jonathan explained. "The one they replaced when we were kids. I found it in an antique shop last month." Emma lifted it carefully. "It's beautiful, but why?" "Because bridges matter," he said simply. "They connect places that would otherwise remain separate. They make crossing difficult passages possible." He took the necklace and fastened it around her neck. "Every day for the past 10 years, you've been building bridges for our children, to their futures, to their dreams, even to me when I didn't deserve it." Emma touched the key where it rested against her collarbone. "We're all building now? Together." Jonathan drew her close, his arms encircling her waist. "I love you, Emma Chen. I loved you then, and I love you now. The woman you've become, the mother you are, everything about you." Emma reached up, tracing the lines of his face, familiar yet changed by time and experience. "I love you too." I never really stopped. Their kiss deepened under the spring stars, a promise of all that was to come. Inside, their children slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge that their family, unconventional as its journey had been, had finally found its way home. As Jonathan held her close, Emma realized that love wasn't always about perfect timing or fairy tale beginnings. Sometimes it was about the courage to rebuild what had been broken, to forge something stronger from the fragments of what came before. "Stay tonight," she whispered against his lips. "Tonight," he agreed, and all the nights after. Together, they stepped back into the house, closing the door on yesterday and opening the way to the future they had chosen, not just for their children, but finally for themselves.